We live.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Abby. Okay,
Hi,
Abby.
Sophie. Happy Monday.
Introduce ourselves because there is a lot of new subscribers
Right.
and new members. So, hello, I am Sophie McLean. I'm a wisdom teacher, and my life is entirely dedicated to awaken all sleepwalkers in life. And if you listen to us, you will know what sleepwalking is.
That's beautiful. And yeah, hi, everyone. We're so happy to have you here, especially the new folks. My name is Abby. I'm a creator and I work with Sophie. I'm the director of operations of Access to Awareness, where we teach awakening. And we're very happy to have you here. It's really a joy. And please feel free to, if you have questions about what we do or you want to engage in our community, just comment underneath, and we're very happy to have new folks here. Welcome.
So today, Abby, we are talking about the media,
That's
but
right.
really all about anything that is bad news, fear triggering, anxiety triggering, sensationalism. You can even find those on social media and a bit everywhere, really, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So the first question is, why, when we turn on the television and we listen to the news, why do we listen only to bad news? Right?
Yeah, what is the bad news?
How come
The attention.
people say that if they put good news, nobody watches the channel?
Right.
So when I introduced myself, I was saying that I have an education to teach wisdom, right? I'm a wisdom teacher, which is to awaken from the illusion that the sleepwalkers are trapped in. That illusion of being a sleepwalker, which means to function without any consciousness, right? Without any awareness, sorry, right? On automatic. That state of being a sleepwalker is also called survival. And you only survive a danger. You do not need to survive something that gives you joy, pleasure, like a butterfly, a bird, a beautiful sunset, right? But when you perceive a danger, you need to survive. All right, so that is the state of our world, our culture. It's a state of sleepwalking, and there is an enormous price to pay to be a species that as a mood is sleepwalking, right? There is anxiety, depression, fear, domination, lying, manipulation, conflict, wars. We could go on and on.
On and on.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, the sleepwalker is in a state of survival. The sleepwalker would disappear if there was no survival.
Wow. Yep.
So when you stop surviving, you're not a sleepwalker anymore, you're awakened. Right? So there is the need for the sleepwalkers to be in a constant state of survival.
Wow. Yes. Yep.
You cannot interrupt it. The sleepwalker will not let you interrupt it. So you need bad news. If you like watching bad news, if you like this kind of glee of being frightened and anxious, if you watch horror movies or terrible movies where people are suffering and all that, just know it's your sleepwalker. That gets validated to be there because there is a danger.
Right. It's like you're proving to yourself that it's okay to stay in survival.
The sleepwalker doesn't want to die.
Mm-hmm.
And we have built our sleepwalker. It's automatic and unconscious, but we fight for it. We feed it with fear and anxiety. We feed it with bad news, with propaganda, with an absence of reflection, of awareness. It's all in the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So, you know why people love, you say to somebody that went on vacation, how was it? And most people will tell you everything that was horrible about their vacation. Yeah. And the plane was delayed and I lost my luggage and blah, blah, blah. So at the end of that, you say to them, oh, you had a terrible time. And they look at you, say, no, I had a great time. But all you heard was the horrible thing. That's the sleepwalker.
Yep.
That's the food of the sleepwalker, right? So here's what I wanted to be clear about. It is absolutely no point blaming the journalist and the media. You know, it's a constant existential question. What comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Right. Right.
Both sides, the watcher and the journalist, needs to wake up.
Right. Wow.
Like, I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
I read a newspaper because I need to stay informed.
Yeah.
Of what's happening in the world, but it's the same. I just read the titles.
Yeah.
That's it. I do not listen
Yeah.
to the drama and the stories, how everything is so terrible, because I'm aware enough to not feed my automatic unconscious survival mechanism.
That's very powerful what you're saying, because it reminds me so much of how people talk about how we nourish ourselves, right? It's not just what we eat or if we exercise or not. It's also what we watch, what we read, who we talk to, if we gossip. All of that stuff either feeds our ego space or doesn't.
Yes.
And how conscious can we be of what we're putting into our bodies?
Well, because our mind, right? You feed your mind the same way you feed your body.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Your mind absorbs everything that comes towards you, right? So if you make a point of watching little children laughing or a good news network or the miracles that are happening every day, not only around you, but in the world and all that, that is what you will feed your mind.
Yes.
Okay? For example, I know someone that sleeps with the news on, goes to sleep with the news on, and wonders why she's anxious in her sleep.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
You're feeding your mind.
Yeah.
All the horror of the automatic and conscious survival mechanism.
Oh my. Yep.
Right? So awareness is always the ultimate power. You have to interrupt. I'm not saying not to be aware of what is happening in the world, right? For example, in Sudan, there is a civil war, and in Ukraine and so forth, but don't get into the survival drama storytelling sensationalism.
Right.
And do not blame one side or the other either. Like I said, the journalists are responsible, but the people watching are also equally responsible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that something I found, again, like our world, we're in so many ways, we're so blessed to have a world so full of information, and there's always the other side of that, right? But there are lots of folks that are sharing news in ways that aren't just to grab your ego and get you sucked in. You know, my wife and I watch an account where someone goes and speaks with folks that are homeless or houseless and asks them what their stories are. And it's a really important thing to hear from a person what their story is, for me, of how that happened. And for me, it gives me an access to, okay, it inspires me to be someone in the world that stands for something else. And that kind of news that comes from someone's direct experience is a very different thing than a sensationalized big story that gets all the clicks and gets all the, attention. There are a lot of ways to find information that are more
Yes,
empowering.
and life is difficult enough anyway, right? Even
Absolutely.
if we have a great life, a good life, we know with the lucky people in the world, I don't believe in luck, but the people that have a great life, and still life is not easy.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you want to create a relationship to reality that is as profound as possible.
Mm.
And again, everybody is the originator of their experience of being alive.
Mm-hmm.
Stop pointing the fingers. If journalists are being irresponsible, it's because you're watching them.
Mm-hmm.
I always say I don't eat meat, right? And I say to everybody, we should have a day where nobody eats meat, so
I love that.
and we stand that animal will be treated humanly, not terribly like they are now, right?
Yes.
Okay. We have the power. The people have the power.
Yes.
You stop eating meat for 5 days or whatever, the meat industry will listen really
Absolutely.
fast.
Oh, yes.
Right? So if everybody stopped watching the sensationalism and the fear, anxiety triggering media, they will
Straighten up.
straighten them up. Yeah, they will. They will. And you'll feel better, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love when you share that piece, because we are all responsible. And that's
All
how
of
we can, yeah.
There is no victim.
Different.
At one point we blamed the lawyers and we blamed the doctors and we blame now the journalists, and then the next is a
Government and the
but we always reap what we sow.
yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I was with my family this weekend and we were having a conversation about the current political climate, and everyone was just sharing, like, I think this should happen and I think this should happen, and we all have our views on what's going on. And I just shared, in my view, the only way that things shift is if a whole culture shifts their values. If a whole culture shifts what they're interested in, everything will follow. It has to. That's how the world works.
Mm-hmm.
So we can blame every piece of our history or our, the issues going on. We can do that. But I think a more powerful stand is, how do we come into a space of integrity together in our culture?
Yeah.
And that's something that we stand for, by the way, inside of the context of this company. We have 5 pillars that we believe very strongly.
And one of them is cohesiveness.
Cohesive. Cooperation. That's right.
Great, Abby. Do you want to see if there is any questions?
Sure. Absolutely. Okay, let's see. I don't see. Okay, we have Kim. Hi, Kim. I love seeing you here every week. Kim said, I see so much in this conversation for myself. Also, there are farms out there who care for animals and the earth beautifully and responsibly. Thank you, Sophie and Abby.
There is.
There really are.
I think there is definitely an awakening taking place.
Oh,
definitely.
I agree.
Yeah, not enough. There is.
Yeah, it's happening. It is happening. And there are so many ways that there are a lot of spaces in the culture that are changing. And I think we can put our attention on those spaces.
Yeah, we will. All right, everybody, leave us your comments and we will speak to you next week.
That's right.
Oh, and watch out for the short video that we're going to post, because our book is coming out in 2
That's right.
weeks.
That's
If
right.
you just want to get it, it's really great.
It's really, really great. And we're gonna have an event around it too. So we'll post about that.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.